What is up, guys? In today's video, we're going to be watching a video about why Smurf is scared of Chapter 2 OG. He kind of talks about some of the problems that they foresee happening with the upcoming OG chapter, because if you guys didn't know, November 2nd, we are going back to the Chapter 2 map, and we're going to be playing Chapter 2 Season 1, 2, and 3 over the course of that month.
As everyone knows, a couple months ago, a huge roadmap leaked for Fortnite.
Yeah, so this all got spoiled by this roadmap leaking, I believe, at the end of Season 1. Or maybe it was towards the end of Season 2, actually. But it gave us a look into, like, Wrecked being what it was, these collabs happening, the Marvel season. And then, like, as time went on and more of this roadmap started to be correct, not only did it confirm that, like, we would be getting a Marvel season this season before anything was revealed, but also it's like kind of cut off here, or like in a weird way, but there was a Chapter 2 OG part of this happening in November. So we've known Chapter 2 OG would be coming for a while now, and I think that's very unfortunate. Like, I like leaks a lot, but having the entire year leaked like this was not good. Like, I like knowing what's going to come, like, maybe a few weeks in advance, but like having the entire year spoiled, I think, was pretty grief. Especially because we knew there would be some type of OG season or something going on at the end of this year, because Fortnite basically confirmed that at the end of the original OG season. Like, they said something would be happening in 2024. But we got reload mode this summer, and I feel like if this roadmap hadn't leaked, we all would have just thought reload mode is what they were talking about when it came to that. So not only did it spoil that we know we're getting a Chapter 2 OG, where like that surprise is gone, but also the kind of mini event with the pipeline exploding and Wrecked, the reveal for that was supposed to be like Dr. Doom being the one who did it, and like the fact that we're getting another Marvel season, that reveal was like basically spoiled and ruined because of this roadmap as well. So I hope nothing like this ever happens again, as far as like vast leaks into the future of the game.
Roadmap leaked for Fortnite, which basically revealed all of their 2024 plans. So far, we've gotten a Rex season, another Marvel season, all the festival artists, some of the Lego updates, and lots of the rocket racing
There's been lots of points of like correctness on that like roadmap
stuff. And the next Battle Royale thing is Chapter 2 OG. For those who don't know, welcome to Planet Earth. Fortnite OG was this huge event where they brought back the OG map for 1 month, and they would cycle through a bunch of the different seasons, ranging from Season 5 to Season 10.
Incredibly successful. There's a lot of people who hated it, and in the Fortnite community, there's obviously that nostalgia, like people overhype things from the past, but I feel like there's like the opposite of that too, where like people automatically hate anything from the past. I think having a month-long temporary season that changes throughout the course of the month is just, there's a lot of hype there, and there's a lot of potential for it to be something that's fun to play if you're open-minded about it. And like I said, it's a month. When a new Fortnite season comes out, an actual season, I feel like I judge it more harshly because it's 3 months of the game's future. If you don't like the OG season, it's a month long, you know, and it changes like every week, or, you know, a couple times during the course of the month. It doesn't need to be the most perfect, best version of the game, because it is temporary and it's changing so much.
And everyone had a great time. It broke player numbers, making it Fortnite's biggest day in history. And it was just insane when it first happened. And Epic said that they were going to bring back OG next year. But it wasn't exactly in the way we expected. It came in the form of reload. And this...
Exactly, like I said. If we didn't already have this leak, no one would be expecting an OG season at the end of the year.
This time, it seems like we're going to be getting an OG season themed around Chapter 2, which, in case you don't know, is the second chapter in Battle Royale, which is a completely different map from Chapter 1. But recently, more and more stuff has been coming out about this, and I've gotten more and more worried the more I read about this. More info has come out about this, and I just am worried that it's not going to be that good. Matter of fact, I'm worried it's going to be mid.
Probably will be mid, like most things.
I know, it's a scary thought. Chapter 2 being mid? Well, let me just talk about why I'm scared about this. For starters, literally the day I'm recording this video, it was revealed that we are only going to be going to Seasons 1, 2, and 3. And
So this was already assumed because the picture that was on the roadmap was just those seasons. Some people thought it was like a placeholder image and they would do every season, but I think doing seasons 1, 2, and 3 actually makes a lot of sense.
4, this was kind of teased because on the roadmap, these were the only 3 seasons shown, but everyone just assumed this was a placeholder.
I feel like not everyone assumed that was a placeholder. Some people did. I thought it would be seasons 1, 2, and 3. I feel like if it was going to be all chapter 2, they would have just used like a generic chapter 2 image. But like going out of their way to use 1, 2, and 3, to me kind of signified that it's going to be the first 3 seasons.
Image, and they were actually going to go to all the seasons except Primal. No one cares about Primal. But I'm just worried because season 1 to me was so boring. There was no new content. We got the new map and a few new guns and stuff like that, and then the harpoon gun as one update, and the Star Wars lightsabers. And I doubt that they're gonna bring back the lightsabers. I know Disney is kind of a part of Epic Games now, but still, I doubt they bring back the lightsabers. Plus, it would just feel weird. So, Season 1 really had...
So, that is correct. Chapter 2, Season 1 had pretty much no updates. It was a very vanilla version of the game. I think it was one of the best balanced versions of the game. But it was 128 days long, I think, with no updates. And that was really problematic. Like, that's just not ideal, especially with Fortnite Chapter 1, the game was kind of built on, like, weekly updates. And so going from weekly updates and constant updates to none for 120 plus days is a lot. But the fact that it was way too long initially does not matter in this context because we're getting a month-long season that features 3 previous seasons. Right? So, I think after the recording of this video, it was kind of, the schedule was leaked. It's going to be a week of Season 1, 2 weeks of Season 2, and then a week of Season 3. So the fact that this season was kind of meh and dragged on for way too long doesn't matter in the context when it's a week long. Like having a new map, like it's not new, it's an old map, but like having a map come back that we haven't played on for a long time for a week is like going to be very exciting. It doesn't matter that back in the day the season was boring and not exciting. Like the first week of it was one of the most hyped times in Fortnite history, and I think just you give us a new Fortnite map or a different Fortnite map for a week and people are going to be excited to play on it. So I don't think the staleness of this season will matter in the context of an OG season at all.
No content to give us. But Season 2, on the other hand, that's going to be phenomenal to go to.
This is often regarded as one of the best seasons of all time.
I love that.
Also, I should say, I quit the game because of Chapter 2. I'm not a big Chapter 2 fan. I quit the game after Chapter 2 Season 2. I played like a week of Chapter 2 Season 3 and then quit the game. And I came back when Chapter 2 was ending. So I'm not a fan of Chapter 2 by any means. But I still just, and like the map was like a huge reason why I quit. Mainly the staleness of it and the lack of updates to it. But either way, a month is just such a short period of time in terms of Fortnite, you know?
Season so much. It's not the best of the chapter in my opinion. I think that goes to Season 4, but still, this was a phenomenal season. I can't wait to go back to it, but even then, I still think there's gonna be something off about that season. Map-wise, it's not very visually distinct. Don't get me wrong, we got a ton of map changes during that season, but if you just look at the map, like, you can't.
Okay, so one of his main points that against Chapter 2 OG, being confined to these 3 seasons, is the lack of visual change in the map. And what I think by that, he means lack of biomes. The Chapter 2 map did never really change. Like, if you compare the Season 1, I wish he had the Season 8 version on here. A lot of the Chapter 2 maps stayed the same, and they mostly just changed this middle area season to season. I quit the game for a year and a half, and when I came back, I was still landing at all of the same places. Like, I think the only one that actually changed and stayed changed was Salty Springs became Salty Towers and then Boney Burbs. And then Coral Castle was over here. But for the most part, like, the core of the Chapter 2 map stayed the same. So I feel like this argument that it shouldn't only be Seasons 1, 2, and 3 because of the lack of biome change doesn't make any sense. Again, we're going to this for a month. So the lack of biome changes week to week isn't that big of a deal because we only have a month to get burnt out on the map. The differences between Season 1 and 2 were the shark was added And this POI looks terrible. You're like, it's just on the edge. I would never go there. This has a Mythic Grappler, which is unlimited, and then also the Mythic Scar, which was like very good. The Yacht had the Mythic Heavy AR, and then Deadpool took it over, and it had Deadpool's pistols. The Grotto had the Mythic Minigun. The Rig had the Mythic Boombow, and then the Agency had the Mythic Drum Gun. All of these Mythic POIs were very sought after. So having Chapter 2 in the game, we're going to go from nobody landing on this center island here to like 90% of, or like half the lobby landing Agency. It's one of like the hottest POIs ever. So to say there won't be any change because the biomes don't change, I feel like just makes no sense. And again, we're not going to be on this for 100+ days like we were back then. It's going to be 7 days of this, 14 days of this, and then 7 days of what comes after this. Like, the lack of biome change, I don't think it's a big deal.
Can't really tell the difference. But regardless, this is still by far going to be the best season to go to. And then we have Season 3, which is going to be super fun to go to, but...
The Season 3 update for the season will be very interesting to me because it kind of makes no sense, but I think he gets to that later on in the video.
I just don't think they're gonna...
With the launch of Season 3, they flooded the map. And then little by little over the course of the season, they reduced the water level, revealing more of the map, which is like a cool mechanic, but it doesn't work in the sense of like a shortened version of the season, you know? That's why I quit. Like they flooded this map and we knew the water level was supposed to go down, but I had no faith in them to update the game at the time because both Season 1 and 2 of Chapter 2 were over 120 days long. So when it came to this and they flooded the map, I was like, I'm not waiting for them to unflood it. And that is a cool mechanic. But it turned out that when they unflooded the map...
But regardless, during that season, but if you just look...
It was all the same POIs. The only thing that actually changed with them flooding the map and then the water level going down was this area in the top left got changed to Coral Castle. Like, everything else just stayed the same. So, like, flooding the map really wasn't even that exciting. And the flooding of the map happened with the device event at the end of Chapter 2, Season 2. But that event is going to be the event that ends Chapter 2 OG. So I don't know how Season 3 is going to happen without the flooding of the map. But I don't expect the map to flood. And I think it'll just be like the water level decreased version of Season 3, I guess.
All the way. I don't know. I just feel like it would be weird to have the map flood for like 2 weeks and then go into an end event. Which, let's talk about the time restraints for these seasons, because it's going to be weird. Now, by the looks of it, it looks like it's going to be 1 month long, same as the last OG season. But I don't think we have enough content to take us through a whole month.
I think a different map and loot pool for a month is very exciting, even if there isn't as significant updates as we had with Chapter 1 OG.
When we went back to the OG map back in 2023, we had 5 seasons to go through, and each one was really distinct. Like,
I feel like that's incorrect. If you guys remember back then, a lot of people were very disappointed with the updates. Like, the Season 7 snow biome change was not as it was initially, and people were unhappy with it. And then I think the volcano, did the volcano even come in? And then 9 and X, they didn't really do the map changes. They like had like 20% of each season's map changes, I feel like. Like the initial Season 5 launch map they did for the OG season was like correct, but like the seasons after that were like a smaller taste of what those map changes were. So I think that Chapter 2 OG being only 3 seasons long could actually be a good thing because they're not like spreading themselves as thin with as many seasons as little time. I expect like each season update for Chapter 2 OG to be more in line with what it actually was back then rather than just being like a small version of it. And like I already said, like a lot of people were mad about this during the OG season we had last year.
in Season 6, the cube floated up into the sky. We had a bunch of different, like, the things happen around the island. It was visually distinct. Season 7, we got a snow biome. Granted, it wasn't big as the one back in the OG Season 7.
It wasn't nearly as large.
But still, at least it was visually distinct. And then we went to seasons 8 and 9, which didn't really have any map changes, but still brought like cannons and little things here and there. And then season X added a ton of cool weapons and stuff like that. The comet came into the sky, it was crazy. All of those seasons felt like they added something onto the map. But I don't think that's going to be the case for Chapter 2.
Which is like true, but that's not like the fault of Chapter 2 OG. That was the fault of Chapter 2 during its time as well. Like there just wasn't biome changes during Chapter 2. So only doing seasons 1, 2, and 3 of Chapter 2 is not what causes that problem.
Only crazy map change that I see is the map being flooded, which don't get me wrong, it's going to be cool. Seeing the Fortilla again will be cool, but I just don't really see that there's enough content to take us through 3 seasons in the span of a month. Maybe I'm not wording this properly, but it felt like during season OG we got so much stuff that you never got bored. But in this season, I don't really see myself playing this that much because season 1 was really boring. We got one update the entire chapter, or one.
True, but it will be 7 days rather than 128. So that boringness is kind of less of a factor.
Big update, at least with the harpoon gun. Season 2 I'll definitely play a lot of. I'll have a lot of fun during that, but even still, I don't think the map is visually distinct enough to like differentiate its map. Don't get me wrong, loot pool is going to be different, but agency and like what else? Then season 3 is going to be cool, don't get me wrong, but once again, we're probably going to have to split out these seasons over the course of 2 weeks compared to the 1 week back in OG. I also want to bring up another thing, the event that got leaked, because it was leaked that we're going to be getting an end event, just like last season's OG, where we got a recreation of the end events.
So I think there's been more leaks since he made this video, but Wenzo kind of confirmed that like the schedule of Chapter 2 OG will be 1 week for Season 1, 2 for Season 2, and then 1 for Season 3. And then the end event of Chapter 2 OG will be the device event, which is kind of confusing because that event is what caused Season 3. But yeah, it's gonna kind of be a mess as far as that goes, but the event is kind of known that it's gonna be the device event, which is something I think he's about to talk about.
But then it showed off a bunch of different metaverse modes and stuff.
Which like I liked the Fortnite events, but at this point in time I don't really care. Like I feel like it's just gonna be another event, like he just said, that kind of just shows off like whatever the new metaverse mode is, and then like we go and wait for Chapter 6.
I'm worried because Season 3 did not have a live event. Season 2 had 2 live events. Heck, even Season 1 had a live event. Granted, it was a Star Wars talk show, but still a live event regardless. Season 3 didn't have anything. And if we're supposedly going to be getting a live event, it means that we're either A, going to be getting a rerun of the Chapter 2 end event, which wouldn't make any sense.
That would make no sense, I agree.
Because we haven't gone to Season 8, and that would just be a whole different can of worms to open. And we can't do the device event because that...
It is going to be the device event. And he's about to say that it doesn't make sense because that's what caused Season 3 flooding the map, but it's going to be the device event kind of changed up a bit to end Chapter 2 OG.
That was the thing that flooded the map in the first place. And so, what is it going to be? A completely original event? Like, what original event for Season 3 of all things could launch us into the next chapter? Also, I mentioned Season 8. Let's talk about that for a second. Epic is so stupid for not doing Seasons 5, 7, and 8.
I completely disagree.
I can understand why they wouldn't want to do 4 because A, there's probably some legal issues with Marvel, even though Disney does own Epic Games like I said, there might be some legality issues there, and also, we're having a Marvel season right now, I doubt they would want to go right back into Marvel right away, so I can understand why they wouldn't want to do that. And Primal?
So, I think it's ideal to do Seasons 1, 2, and 3, because they leave themselves more room to do future seasons for Chapter 2 OG Part 2. Like, people don't like the OG seasons. I think they're going to continue to happen every year because they realize people are getting bored of chapters faster and faster. I think the current season, Season 4, is very good, and I enjoy playing it, but like the numbers are still consistently going down as far as player count over the course of Chapter 5. So having a OG season in November to like spike that player count again and get a lot of interest before the launch of Chapter 6, I think makes a lot of sense. And so if they do all of Chapter 2 this year, or just Chapter 2, Season 7, 8, 6, 7, 8 this year, they probably got to do Chapter 3 next year, right? But it also hasn't been that long since we've been on Chapter 3. So I feel like splitting Chapter 2 into like several pieces, like they're seemingly doing, lets them make each piece a higher quality than it would be otherwise. Like we saw with Chapter 1 OG, like the Season 7 and 8 update wasn't true to what those were, and then same with 9 and X. So I think that we'll get higher quality seasons, but also they could do Chapter 2 OG Part 2 next year, make it more about the Alien Last Reality 7 IO arc, because there also was like kind of different arcs in the storyline at that point compared to the start of Chapter 2. And then that allows more time between Chapter 3 OG, Chapter 4 OG, so on and so forth. If they did Chapter 2 OG this year, Chapter 3 next year, we would be on Chapter 5 OG, I believe, in 2027. So it would have only been 3 years since then. When we got Chapter 1 OG, it had been like 4 years since then. So I feel like letting more time go before we get to an OG season makes sense. And the reason why they kind of need to stagger it is Chapter 1 and 2 were both 2 years long, and then Chapters 3, 4, and 5 have only been a year long. So if you keep doing one every year and just increase the number by one every year, it gets to the point where it hasn't been that long since that time period. So I think this makes a lot of sense. This person clearly liked the end of Chapter 2 more. This was also a point in time where the player count was like, the interest in the game was quite low. A lot of people quit because of Chapter 2. So I think doing the start of Chapter 2 makes more sense for that reason anyways, but like, especially for future OG seasons, I think it makes sense to kind of leave the second part of Chapter 2 for the future. And I think doing the OG seasons every year makes a lot of sense.
No one wants to go back to Primal. All you Primal fans, you guys are gaslighting yourselves. No one likes this season. But Season 5 was really good with the desert biome and the sand tunnel.
I think this season also got no updates, and the only updates that really got were like the collab skins coming to the shop, but I could be wrong on that. I didn't play during this time.
And all the different guns, the bounty hunters, it introduced the gold system, which was cool. Season 7 was so good. The alien theme, the last reality coming to the island, the end event. I know we probably wouldn't do that event, but still that event was amazing. The way it was so...
One of the biggest criticisms from that event is that at the end of it, the like UFO blows up and it like destroys parts of the map. A lot of people were mad when Season 8 launched and those destroyed parts of the map weren't even destroyed and it was just back to how it already was. So like he talked about like not liking the lack of visual differences in the map, but that was even like a complaint players had with the seasons he's gassing.
So cool. And Season 8 was also really fun. A really overhated season in my opinion. I don't know why so many people call it.
I started playing in the last month of the season. That's when I came back. I can't really judge it.
But still, when I think of Chapter 2, I mainly think of these seasons and Season 2 and Season 4, but I don't know if that really counts. No offense to the Season 3 or 6 fans, but I am not thinking of Seasons 1, 3, and 6 when I think of Chapter 2. I mainly think of the latter half of Chapter 2, which is why I was excited for Chapter 2 OG. But since we're only going to the first 3 seasons, I just don't see myself enjoying it.
Oh, that's actually when I started playing.
So we're only going to the first 3 seasons.
When this got vaulted is when I started playing. You could like grab people through their builds and stuff with this and then just pump them. This looked very annoying to play against. I was like thinking about coming back and saw this and was like, nah. And then when I saw they vaulted it, I was like, okay, I'll play.
Seasons, I just don't see myself enjoying it as much as I thought it would be. I'm worried. I am really, really worried for this. I don't want to say that it shouldn't happen, but at the same time, I just don't really know if this is going to be as fun.
Now, my honest opinion on this is that he liked the later seasons more, so he wanted those to come back and not the earlier ones. So he kind of like reverse engineered reasons why the earlier ones shouldn't come back and then the later ones should instead. Like that's kind of what it comes off as to me, which is fine, but like I don't know. I think he personally liked the later seasons more, so he thinks it should be those ones. And I think they will come back at some point.
Now, I could see them maybe saving the other seasons for another OG, because going to Chapter...
I 100% think that's what's happening.
3 OG, like, what are we doing? But at the same time, do we really need an OG season every single end of the chapter? Because...
We don't, but Epic isn't gonna not want to do it. Like, it's just, like, too OP.
Because we have Reload now, which is what I think OG should be.
I agree. Reload is a very good addition to the game. And having it just be like a kind of hodgepodge of Fortnite's past, especially if they keep updating it and add map changes to it and stuff, I think like it as a game mode is very nice, and it does kind of satisfy people that want the old stuff. But the hype from an OG season at the end of the year is not going to compare to Reload. Like let's look at like 2025, right? Like late 2025. The hype for Reload isn't going to be there as much anymore. Like, it'll still be a game mode that people play and enjoy probably, but it's not going to be as hyped as like, hey, this month we're going back to this map for this month only. Play it. And the reason why that hype is so important is because it gets a lot of people back onto the game and talking about the game right before the new chapter, right before they reveal the new metaverse modes. I don't think it's like surprising that they did Chapter 1 OG finally after years of people wanting the Chapter 1 map back. As soon as they're ready to reveal their like Lego Rocket Racing and Festival. They basically used Chapter 1 to get a bunch of people back on the game again and expose them to like the new metaverse of Fortnite. It hasn't really worked out as far as player count goes, but I feel like that's the whole reason they did it. They wanted as many eyes as possible on that. And even if there isn't more metaverse modes added every year, just getting as many eyes as possible on the new Chapter 6, Chapter 7, whatever it's going to be, makes a lot of sense. And it's also in November, which is typically when Call of Duty comes out. And like Call of Duty isn't like the behemoth it once was, but it's still probably Fortnite's biggest competitor when it comes to like casual shooters, especially casual shooters that are available on console and PC. So like having a hype season happen at the same time as when your competitor typically launches their thing for the year just makes the most sense. Like it checks too many boxes, and it's like I feel like it's just too OP for Epic. So I think they're just going to keep doing it every year until it doesn't work.
Sort of celebration of Fortnite's past. Not just going back to it and just recycling the same stuff over and over, but taking the old stuff but putting a new spin on it. Throwing in a bunch of different weapons from different chapters and different POIs and just cultivating that all into one map in a new game mode. I feel like that is the best possible solution for Epic to go.
I agree. Reload is very good. Regardless of it being OG, I wouldn't care if they did Reload with an entirely unique map and like different weapons. I don't care. Just like the concept of like a faster paced BR mode as an option, I think is very good.
If they want to keep the OG feeling of Fortnite, but also keep it fresh. Overall, I'm just worried for Chapter 2 OG. I'm still going to be playing it 100%. I love Chapter 2, but still, I'm cautiously optimistic. With that being said, I'll catch you guys.
Alright, so his video will be linked in the description below if you want to check out his channel. I thought it was a good video, even though I disagree with most of it. I thought it was interesting to talk about. I am a Chapter 2 hater. I quit the game during that time, but I'm still excited to go back to that map for a month because it's a month. And I think that's kind of how it goes with OG seasons. Even the seasons that weren't my favorite. I've not enjoyed Chapter 5. A few years from now, when we get Chapter 5 OG, it'll probably be fun to go back to for a few weeks. And again, it's a few weeks. Just play it and have fun if you want to have fun. I feel like people worry too much about like what side they're on in terms of like hating the old Fortnite or liking the new Fortnite. I feel like if you just go into it with the knowledge that it's temporary, play it for what it is and have fun, you'll probably have a lot more fun than if you're constantly comparing it to like whether or not it's better or worse than current seasons.